Hey, my name is Colleen Pinyan, and I'd love to welcome you to the Chopped Kitchen. Today, our recipe is Classroom Chopped, Mastering Content Through Makerspace Magic. You can type in the bit.ly below to follow along as I go through this course, or you can scan the QR code, whichever works best for you. Here's a look at some of the digital learning competencies standards that this presentation is aligned to. We'll take care of everybody: educators, educational leaders, and coaches. In this session, you're going to get ready to collaborate with your peers to problem solve under pressure and to tap into your inner creativity to showcase knowledge in innovative and meaningful ways. By the time we finish, you're going to have a toolkit of ideas along with an understanding of how to cultivate a maker mindset that empowers learners to demonstrate learning in novel ways. I'd like to welcome you officially again to the Chopped Maker Kitchen. This session is going to be tapping into the principles and framework used on Food Network's legendary show, Chopped. For those of you who are not familiar with Chopped, here's how it works. Chefs are given there's 3 rounds, and chefs each round are given a basket of random ingredients, and they have to use those ingredients to create a dish. First, they have to do an appetizer, then a main ingredient, then a dessert. Each round, you can only use the items that are in your basket, except you are allowed to use pantry items. You have to use each of the ingredients. If you don't, you lose points. And then at the end and it's all done under time, a very tight time constraints. The end, they approach the chopping block or the judges table, where each of them will present their dish, explain what happened, and answer the judges' rigorous questions. And that is what we're going to emulate today. We are going, if you were here with us at one of the NCBOLD workshops, what we would do is we would divide up into groups. And then I would lay out the rules of the Chopped Maker Kitchen. Each group must incorporate at least one of each type basket ingredient into their project. So for example, you might have 25 little stickers. You only have to use one of those. You can also access the community pantry for additional ingredients. That means glue sticks, markers, paper, scissors, and tape. We have those universal ingredients in the craft pantry. Here's one thing you cannot do. You cannot bring in items from outside the kitchen. That means you cannot pull stuff out of your Mary Poppins bag, folks. You have to use only what you've got. Then I would unveil the Chop Challenge for our participants. Use your basket ingredients to make an iconic North Carolina landmark. I'd start up that timer for about 10 minutes and give them time to work. As they work, you'll notice that they will be collaborating together. There'll be a lot of talking. There'll be engagement. There'll be problem solving. How are we going to use this? How are we going to use jigsaw puzzle pieces or wine corks or bottle lids or streamers or a party hat or a cupcake liner? Those are all the kind of things that I would do put into their basket. When the time is up, they will come to the chopping block where they would have to present their dish or their iconic North Carolina landmark and explain how they creatively used their products. Then we'd have some reflection time where they're going to return to their tables and discuss ideas for how this could work in their classroom. So here's something you can think about while we can reflect together. You might be able to use this, say, for example, if you were an English teacher or language arts teacher, you might give them the Chop Challenge to create different settings from the book. If you are teaching some sort of science class, you might have them use their ingredients to build a model. Social studies, you could use city models. You could have them design towns. The list goes on and on. The great thing about this, and what we want to talk about and really focus on right now, is that the Chopped competition, the Chopped lesson, is a great way to leverage maker resources in your classroom for students to show off their learning in new and creative ways. Every time you do Chopped, it would be different. So right now, I'd love for you to take a minute and take a look at all these resources. I've got 4 different resources here for you. You can scan the QR code to get there. And these 2 on the corners, the bottom, top left, bottom right, are videos. The other 2 are articles. Take a couple minutes, pause the video, and look at that and think about, see what you can learn about a makerspace. Then we'll come back together and talk about it.
Great. I'm Scott Walker. I teach AP Language and
I'm sorry about that. You might have seen me go ahead a little too quickly. I apologize. We'll get to Mr. Scott Walker in just a second. So let's think about a makerspace. What does a makerspace do? It's a way for students to use various resources. It can be technology resources, like you might have a Cricut or a 3D printer that you can use, and it can go all the way down to no tech, like Legos. And you can have some stuff mid-tech in between. In my library, I have a maker area. There's lots of Legos, there are puzzles, there's a jewelry station. Students love to make things. And that's one of the things in a classroom. You may think as a classroom teacher, you can have your own maker area. You can have a corner of the room where you just have random things there for students to do when they finish their work, or maybe use to build a project. A colleague I spoke to recently said that he loved to use a maker area for students who finish for the fast finishers. You know, those fast finishers want to go to their phones. That's what they want to do. Oh, can I get my phone here, please? Can I look at my phone? And what he said that he liked to do is say, hey, you need to go do some sort of activity over on the maker shelf for a little bit before you do your phone. Do something over there, and then you can take a look at your phone. Hopefully students don't have that much time when you have a project to finish work at the end of class. But you know how sometimes it is with big projects. You can't always time the ending. But you can use put together a makerspace for students in your classroom. Games, puzzles, Legos, coloring pages, Sudoku puzzles, have pencils, paper for drawing, ways for students to have different outlets to express themselves or to think or to tinker. I recently attended the ISTE 24, International Society of Technology Educators Conference. And in the expo hall, I made my way to the Lego booth. I was excited to see how the Lego folks might recommend you use Legos in high school. I was pretty disappointed when they had 2 stations for elementary and 2 stations for middle school and none for high school. And I went to the ed representative there and I said, why did you forget about high schoolers? And she kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit about that. I'm like, don't forget about high school students and Legos. My high school students use Legos all the time. It is a great way to build things, to think, to problem solve. So that is an easy thing you can get in your classroom to build a makerspace. You know what? The best way you can do this is through donations. You can put an call out to your parents. Hey, is anyone cleaning out their closet? Or your Facebook or Instagram page. Everyone loves to purge and get rid of those things. So those are some ideas of how you can build a makerspace in your classroom. Now let's think about the CHOP challenge. I would like to share with you one of my teachers that I did this project with at Northwest High School. His name's Scott Walker. I'm a little afraid when I advance the slide of whether he's going to already be talking or not, but hopefully the video rewound. If not, this is Scott Walker talking about how we used the CHOP challenge for a Great Gatsby project.
Great. I'm Scott Walker. I teach AP Language and Composition at Northwest High School, and I'm here to show some of the projects that my students came up with. Colleen, Pinyan, and myself, we worked together to have students execute this project. So they read The Great Gatsby, and what we had them do was create a setting map, or each group had one setting from The Great Gatsby, and then Ms. Pinyan set up the materials and the processes by which they would follow, and she made it into a game, which the students really appreciated and they really enjoyed. The students executed this after they had taken the AP exam. It's very difficult sometimes to get those students to take academic pursuits or to take instruction seriously after they've taken the test, but this was a great solution for that set of problems because they were willing, they enjoyed it, and we also made the observation that they were 100% on task, they were all engaged, they were all invested in the work. We didn't see disruptive behavior, we didn't see them pull their phones out, we just saw them work together to problem solve, and they came up with some really amazing work based on the materials that Ms. Pinyan provided. So I think that this kind of collaboration is something that I'd like to do again, and I think this is also a kind of assignment that isn't specific to The Great Gatsby, but is relevant to a lot of different books that students would read, and it's a setting map assignment, but we just adapted it to do this kind of these found materials, and the students took to it, and it was really beautiful. And they took about 3 days, and then they had to go in front of judges, and they had to describe and explain their reasoning for using the materials and also the meaning that they were creating. And so they were challenged at every level, and they really stepped up and they really met that challenge, and we were both really satisfied with the learning outcomes, and they just did a fantastic job. Great.
I'm going to echo Scott's thoughts on this. The thing that I really appreciated the most, and the class that did this were AP kids, high flyers. And AP, a lot of those kids are used to everything being bright line, black and white, yes or no. And they struggled a little bit because there were not necessarily any right answers with this. They couldn't quite figure out, like, well, how am I going to use this cupcake line and this court? What am I going to do with these things? But they had to work together as a team. And that's kind of life sometimes. You might not know how to do it. John might, but John might. Or John may not have the skill, but I might have the skill. The collaboration where they were able to produce a unique work product was very inspiring to watch. And Scott is exactly right. The students were not on their phones. They were talking, they were collaborating, they were troubleshooting ideas. I've never didn't know teenagers could use that much glue sticks. So, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So I would love for you right now, if you can, on our NCBOLD website, we have their directions about how to access our think sheets for this project. And I have created a think sheet for this. If you can't find it, you can just pull out a notebook paper and create a grocery list. It's a recipe for Pinyan's pointers for how to construct a winning recipe in your chalk classroom. Now, these cups measurements, it's just for fun. It's not exact. But the main thing you need to know is in creating a chopped lesson is you can use what you have. Go to that, like I said before, get donations. Look in your craft closet. Look in your home craft pantry. You know, educators, we always have that stuff everywhere. The one thing I would encourage you to do when you use this is that you use small ingredients. I'm going to flip back over here. Well, I don't want to flip back over there because he'll probably start talking again. But one of the like jigsaw pieces, wine corks, those are both really good things. Pom-poms, pipe cleaners, craft sticks. You want small, cheap things. You don't want to spend a lot of money on this. One of the great things we have in Winston's here in Greensboro, where I live, is we have a place called Reconsider Goods, where people donate items that they want reused and recycled instead of going to the landfill. So at that store, they have buckets of craft junk, like buckets of jigsaw pieces, buckets of old greenery, buckets of CDs. Throw in some old CDs. They really have fun trying to figure out what that is. And you can go in and fill up a bucket for $4. So I was able to use 2 buckets worth of stuff, spend like $8 on it there, and have enough baskets for all my classes. Cupcake liners are another great thing because you can buy those like 100 in a pack, really cheap. So the thing of it is you want low cost, cheap ingredients, but get what you've got. And one other thing is, if each basket does not have to be exactly the same. You can mix it up. Next, another important thing is the craft pantry, the glue gun. The glue gun is important. I would strongly advise that you have multiple glue guns, 2 or 3. So if you're thinking about wanting to do this kind of project next year, you might want to put on your Amazon wish list or your class wish list glue guns and glue sticks. Now, if you're in elementary school, you're probably going to need to, you may just want to use regular glue sticks. But middle schoolers and high schoolers, I mean, they love being able to use that glue stick. The glue gun, they enjoyed it. They really enjoyed doing that. Some other things I had in there was just generic items like markers, scissors. I had tape there and some paper. One thing I also add is that I provided every group a cardboard base, like a flat piece of cardboard for them to use as the building block for their project. So those are some things I would do. I would recommend using, but make sure you have more glue. You're going to need more glue sticks than you think you will for this project. Number 2, what are you going to use for the baskets? I don't use baskets. I use brown paper bags. If you go to one of your local grocery stores and say, hey, I'm doing a project for my school, can you donate some paper bags for me? They will do that. I've had 2 different grocery stores help me out with that for no problem. And then students are able to store their unused props, unused resources and materials in there day after day. I will say too that we did in our plate for this project, we used the library. If you're a classroom teacher, I would ask your librarian, hey, do you want to collaborate and do this? This would be a very easy project for both of you to do together. I would also say too about, while I'm thinking about it, timing of this, you can do, I think 3 days to do the project is about right. Students need 1 day for storyboarding, planning. I don't even bring out the craft pantry that first day. Introduce the topic, get them going. On the second day, they start the construction. And then the third day, they finish up the construction. That's when the real flurry of activity happens. And then day 4, they will go before the judges. So that's kind of a good format that works for us. Worked for us. The next thing is you need the right topic. I had mentioned before there's just the sky's the limit with topics. Scott also mentioned this. For English teachers, it's great. You can use any book if you've got a variety of scenes, and they can talk about. It gives them an opportunity to think about those settings and to drill down and go deep and show an understanding of what those settings are like, to show creative details about those. It's a great way to do models. Like I think an ecosystem or biomodel would be an outstanding way to do this. I've done this one AP Human Geo where we did city models. Students really enjoyed that. Using craft sticks to build railroad tracks, things like that. That people had a lot of fun with that. Another thing you're going to need are judges. Here's how I did that in our classroom. On our final day of judges, I reached out to teachers who had a planning period, the times where, with the class that I was collaborating with. So if you're in the classroom, you may want to find maybe a specialist who has a planning period. Get an assistant principal, your curriculum facilitator. Invite some friends from the community in to be the judges. The great thing about having the judge is that it's a great practice for students to do presentations and talk about their work and and defend a project, defend something. It's a great life practice because one day they may have to present a project to someone in college or in the working world. It's a great life skill. Finally, and I would say this is the most important thing, you can decide whatever rule you want to have, but you have got to stick with it. Create a rubric, put them in writing, and enforce. Like I gave the rules beforehand. I think like the big 3 you have to use one of each of the basket ingredients. You can use the craft pantry. And I would say you cannot bring in any outside things. People wanted to do that. That's an equity problem. Some kids' mom maybe go to Michael's and bring them what they need. Other kids don't have the ability or the finances to do that. So put everybody on the level playing field. Another thing that I might add to the rules is that the judges are going to ask about make sure they're able to explain the content, how the model relates to the content that they've studied, and also how they've creatively used their basket ingredients. Once you have assembled all the ingredients, allow plenty of time to prep this lesson. It will take time to sort the ingredients and put them in bags and make sure you have everything that you need. But that's the hard part. That's when you do that. During the challenge, you're just going to be able to sit back and watch your student chefs assemble their own masterpieces. It'll be a lot of fun to walk around and see how different people problem solve and troubleshoot and have different uses for the jigsaw pieces and the cupcake liners. It's a lot of fun. Okay, we've come to the time now for brainstorming. If you were with us at one of the NCBOLD sessions, we would divide into groups based on school levels and think of ways you can do your own chop challenge. I would love for you to take a minute right now and just jot down some notes. You can use your think sheet that we provided that has a note-taking session on there, and just take a couple minutes and hit play when you're ready to join us again. All right, welcome back. It's time to clean up. This is my least favorite part of cooking. My husband does a lot of cooking in our house, and I'm the cleanup person. Not exactly my favorite thing to do, but today we're going to make cleanup fun. We're going to take a few minutes and we would share, if we were here together, we would share what recipes you created, meaning what ideas do you have. And then we're going to take a minute to reflect and set a SMART goal. It is really important when we attend sessions like this, sometimes we have these things in our mind and then we leave and we forget about them. But when we can commit something to writing and set a goal, that sort of puts it in concrete that this is something I need to do. I've developed the habit when I attend sessions, like I was at ISTE and I've done NC Ties and SLAMA, NCLA, the School Library Media Association's annual conference. One of the things when I do is I always have a page in my notebook where I put action steps, like things that I want to do when I get back to my library. So I would love for you to take a minute and use the think sheet. There is a SMART goal planning document there for you to use to figure out how you would do the CHOP challenge in your classroom. Make a goal. So I think of a topic that you can use and what you need to do to make that happen. I have right here a QR code. If you need a refresher or an introduction to SMART goals, you can scan that. On the think sheet, there's always a link there. Take a minute and let's do that, and then we'll come back to wrap up. Welcome back. Welcome back. I would love to connect with you on social media or through email. If you have any questions about the activity today, you can reach me at pinyans@gcsnc.com, or you can follow me on X or Instagram at NWHS_media. I'd love to hear how you used CHOP challenges in your classroom. Bon appetit.